The Guarma chapter in Red Dead Redemption 2 serves as a pivotal, albeit polarizing, section of the game. This unexpected detour transports the game to a Caribbean island following their failed Saint Denis bank heist. While Guarma initially offers a visually stunning environment and moments of introspection for the gang's unraveling, throughout the chapter, many players view it as a jarring departure from the game's core themes of the American frontier. So, what if Guarma never happened? How would the narrative, characters, and themes of the game change without this tropical interlude? To fully understand how important the Guarma chapter may or may not be, we must first go over how the story was progressing before that chapter, and analyze the state of the game up to that point. Leading up to the events of Guarma, Red Dead Redemption 2 masterfully weaves a narrative of loyalty, moral ambiguity, and the inevitability of change. The story begins with the Vanderlinde gang recovering from the botched Blackwater ferry robbery, establishing a dynamic where trust in Dutch's leadership is absolute. Early chapters focus on the gang's attempts to rebuild their fortunes while evading the Pinkertons and rival factions like the O'Driscolls. Each mission, from small-scale schemes to large-scale heists, underscores the gang's tight-knit bonds and their shared dream of freedom and prosperity, fully following Dutch's vision. Dutch's leadership is the foundation upon which the gang operates, a dream of freedom, self-reliance, and escape from the constraints of a society that values order over individuality. Dutch preaches about finding one last score to secure a better future, a utopian life away from the law and corruption. Early in the game, his charisma and conviction are enough to rally the gang, binding them together with promises of a brighter tomorrow. However, by the time the gang reaches Saint Denis, the cracks in Dutch's idealistic vision are beginning to show. The bustling industrial city represents everything Dutch despises: order, modernization, and control. It is here that the gang is pushed to its limits, with mounting pressure from the Pinkertons and failed schemes highlighting Dutch's growing desperation. The disastrous Saint Denis bank heist marks a dramatic turning point in the narrative. Hosea, the gang's moral anchor, is killed in front of everyone, devastating Arthur and the others. Lenny, one of the gang's youngest and most hopeful members, is also gunned down during the chaotic escape. These losses are compounded by the gang's failure to secure the wealth they so desperately need, leaving them more fractured than ever. For some gang members, Dutch's dream starts to feel more like an illusion. Arthur, who has long been loyal to Dutch, begins to see the inconsistencies in his leader's actions. Dutch's increasing willingness to sacrifice others for his plans, whether it's Sean's death during an ambush, Hosea's sacrifice at the bank, or the countless risks he takes with lives during heists, plants seeds of doubt. Even John Marston, who once idolized Dutch, begins to question whether Dutch truly has the game's best interests at heart. Meanwhile, other members like Micah Bell exploit Dutch's fading credibility, whispering in his ear and feeding his ego, further alienating him from longtime loyalists like Arthur and John. The game's morale shifts from hopeful determination to quiet discontent as Dutch's lofty ideals begin to feel hollow. For those like Charles and Sadie, Dutch's vision still holds some sway, but even they start to recognize the growing dissonance between his words and actions. His refusal to acknowledge the gang's losses, coupled with his unwavering insistence that salvation is just around the corner, paints him as increasingly delusional. By the time of the Saint Denis heist, Dutch's vision is no longer the glue holding the gang together. Instead, it becomes the wedge driving them apart. We will talk about how Guarma, in many ways, amplified this division, but even before the shipwreck, the gang was already questioning whether Dutch is truly their savior. After the catastrophic bank heist, Arthur, Dutch, and a few others are shipwrecked on Guarma. Stripped of their resources and connections, they are forced to navigate a new and dangerous environment dominated by colonial oppression and rebellion. The island is under the control of sugar plantation owner Alberto Fusa, who exploits the local population to maintain his wealth and power. The chapter focuses on the gang's brief alliance with Hercule Fontaine, a revolutionary leader, fighting against Fusa's tyranny. Dutch sees an opportunity to use the revolutionaries to their advantage, agreeing to help Hercule overthrow Fusa in exchange for assistance in escaping the island. Guarma introduces themes of colonialism, exploitation, and rebellion that are almost parallel to the gang's own struggles. The oppressed workers on the island are fighting against a system that mirrors the forces of modernization and industrialization, threatening the gang's way of life. However, these themes are only lightly touched upon, as the chapter is short and heavily focused on action-driven missions. players participate in battles against Fossar's soldiers, sabotage plantation operations, and fight to survive in a hostile environment. Now, what if any of this never happened at all? What if Rockstar cut Guarma from the game entirely? One of the key roles Guarma plays is accelerating Dutch's descent into paranoia and recklessness. The traumatic experiences on the island, being outsmarted by Colonel Fossar, losing members of the gang, and enduring physical hardship, add significant pressure to Dutch's psyche that, as we mentioned, was already on a steady decline. After the death of Hosea, one of Dutch's closest friends and advisors, Dutch and the gang were instantly swept to the island, with no time to process what even just happened. Dutch was unable to properly take time to grieve the loss of his friend, as he had to focus on the task at hand, surviving. As normally after a failed heist, Dutch would rally the gang with one of his grandiose speeches about loyalty and family. However, that doesn't happen this time. Perhaps it may be because Dutch realizes how little he has left. Instead of fighting for the gang's survival, at this point he is simply scrambling for his own. Which this actually does highlight what the game's underlying goal has been the entire game. Survival. Early in the chapter, one of the most striking moments that highlights Dutch's deteriorating leadership is his decision to leave Javier behind after he is captured by Fossar's men. This marks a sharp deviation from Dutch's earlier principles, where loyalty and sticking together were the cornerstones of his leadership. In prior chapters, Dutch repeatedly emphasized the importance of the gang as a family, yet on the island, he shows an alarming willingness to abandon one of his most loyal members. Arthur is visibly unsettled by this, and his journal entries reflect his growing concerns about Dutch's priorities. And although the gang would go back for him, Javier's abandonment symbolizes a turning point for Dutch, as again, he begins to prioritize his own survival and schemes over the well-being of the gang. This incident leaves Arthur questioning pretty much all of Dutch's plan at this point.
A bunch of penniless fugitives on some Caribbean dump, sneaking through caves while two of our best men got shot back home. How could I doubt you, Dutch?
You got no idea, Arthur. No idea at all. I will do whatever it takes for us to survive.
I guess that's what I'm afraid of.
Hold on.
Later, Dutch's killing of Gloria, an elderly guide who helps him and Arthur navigate the caves of Guarma to rescue Javier, marks a significant moment. While Arthur had already seen Dutch kill Angelo Bronte, Gloria's murder is more senseless and driven by paranoia and greed, as the murder only occurs when Gloria asks for more money.
Aquí arriba.
This way.
Sí. Then you pay more.
Okay.
More.
Just a second.
Pay more. Pay now. Ah!
Dutch? What are you doing? Jesus. Easy, Dutch. What was that?
Horrible old crone.
But you killed her.
She was gonna betray us, Arthur. Couldn't you tell?
No.
Well, I got some Spanish. She was.
You keep killing folk, Dutch.
I am just trying to make sure that some of us survive, Arthur. Now, shall we proceed?
I guess.
Listen, son, you think I want any of this?
I don't know.
Of course I don't. But I made a pledge to you all. We would survive, no matter what.
So how did you know she was gonna betray us? What'd she say?
It was in her eyes, in the way she was leading us.
But you said you knew Spanish.
I know human beings, Arthur.
Are you gonna strangle me next?
I'm doing the best I can.
For the first time, Arthur directly confronts Dutch about his actions, signaling a turning point in their relationship. Dutch's justification, that Gloria was a loose end planning to betray them, reveals a leader unraveling under the weight of their predicament. This moment lifts the veil on Dutch's carefully crafted persona, exposing him as increasingly erratic and dangerous. Arthur's journal entries during this time reflect his growing doubts, as he grapples with the realization that Dutch's ideals may no longer align with his actions. If Guarma were removed, or never happened, Dutch's decline could have continued to be explored more gradually and organically. The aftermath of the Saint Denis heist could provide a more grounded setting for these developments. Dutch's paranoia and selfishness could manifest through smaller betrayals and reckless decisions, such as favoring Micah over longtime allies or pushing the gang into increasingly dangerous heists. Arthur's growing distrust could unfold through subtle confrontations, giving more weight to their deteriorating relationship. However, without the extreme circumstances on Guarma, Dutch may have retained a stronger grip on the gang's loyalty, particularly from Arthur and John. This could delay the fracturing of the gang, but would not entirely prevent it, as Micah's influence and Dutch's own hubris would still drive conflict. Furthermore, Guarma also plays a critical role in accelerating Arthur's redemption arc and physical decline, serving as both a physical and emotional breaking point for his character. The island's grueling conditions, marked by starvation, dehydration, and constant combat, push Arthur's body to its limits, exacerbating his tuberculosis, which had already begun to subtly manifest before their arrival. The oppressive heat and humidity, combined with a lack of adequate food and water, leave Arthur physically weakened and emotionally drained. These hardships are compounded by the constant threat of death, as Arthur is forced to navigate a hostile environment filled with dangerous soldiers and treacherous terrain, all while trying to keep himself and the remaining gang members alive. At a time where Arthur should have been taking it easy and relaxing the most, he is forced into a leadership role in an ongoing civil war. By the time Arthur returns to the mainland, his physical deterioration is undeniable. His complexion is pale and sickly, his eyes are sunken, and his once robust frame is visibly frail. This transformation is symbolic of the toll Guarma has taken, not just on his body, but also on his spirit. Arthur's experience on the island highlights the weight of his sacrifices, his willingness to endure extreme suffering for the sake of others, and the consequences of his past decisions. The accelerated decline underscores the urgency of his redemption arc, as Arthur is now racing against time to make amends and leave a legacy of selflessness before his illness claims him. In many ways, Guarma is the crucible that forces Arthur to confront his mortality and prioritize his remaining time, setting the stage for his ultimate transformation into a man seeking to do right by those he loves. If Guarma never happened, Arthur's illness could also be introduced earlier, with his symptoms gradually worsening over the course of the game. Missions could show Arthur struggling physically, adding emotional weight to his redemption arc as he continues to fight for the gang despite his failing health. His interactions with characters like Sadie, Charles, and Rain's Fall could take on greater significance, providing opportunities for introspection and growth that feel more natural within the game's established world. Guarma's linear structure limits player freedom and exploration, a stark contrast to the open-world design of the rest of the game. Without Guarma, the developers could have expanded side content, such as faction missions with the Lemoyne Raiders or Murfree Brood, or character-driven quests focused on Sadie's revenge or Charles's protection of the Wapiti tribe. These additions would deepen the game's world while maintaining its focus on the gang's struggle. Despite its divisiveness, Guarma plays a crucial role in the story. It forces Arthur to confront Dutch's deteriorating mental state in a way that might not have been as stark on the mainland. The isolation of the island amplifies the tension between them, as Arthur begins to openly challenge Dutch's decisions. Additionally, the chapter serves as a physical and emotional breaking point for Arthur, accelerating his illness and setting the stage for his final acts of redemption. Guarma also expands the world of the game, showing that the struggles of the gang are part of a larger interconnected world. The rebellion on Guarma mirrors the gang's fight against modernization, adding a layer of depth to the game's exploration of freedom and oppression. While it feels disconnected at times, its inclusion highlights the global scope of the themes Rockstar sought to explore. The Guarma chapter remains one of the most debated aspects of the game. Its exotic setting, unique narrative, and thematic parallels to the game's struggles offer valuable insights, particularly into Dutch's unraveling and Arthur's redemption. However, its rushed pacing and limited connection to the broader story leave room for speculation about how the game might have unfolded without it. If Guarma were removed, the narrative could focus more on gradual character development and the game's internal conflicts, creating a more cohesive and grounded experience. Yet, for all its flaws, Guarma's impact on the story and characters is undeniable, serving as a pivotal moment that shapes the tragic arc of the game. Although it is probably safe to say, the outcome of the story would have been the same without it. But be sure to let me know what you think in the comments below. I can't wait to hear from you. Thanks for watching.